West Indies actual product of cricket is not far away from being at the top living in world cricket.
We are looking at trying to become the export capital for cricketers again. Our major hurdle is funding. If we were able to run a professional cricket setup within the region, it would mean that we can keep a lot more of our players together for a little bit longer, and then start looking at exporting the fellas again, exporting cricket.
And I think with the World T20 final being in Barbados, is this the ideal way of showcasing what this part of the world needs more love and attention?
Let's embrace this tournament, but understand we can deliver more. Good cricket in the best place to watch it. You can't beat that, huh?
You're always going to get surprises, and you can't underestimate any team that is playing, because everybody trying to win. One of those teams which we're not paying attention to is going to be a shock.
Hello and welcome to a very special following on in association with Barbados Tourism. Myself, John Norman, alongside Steve Harmison, and we're here at London's premier cricket ground, the Kensington Oval, for a great show. We're going to be joined by a West Indies legend, a guy that even Steve Harmison looks up to, the 6'8" Joel Garner, and also a man that probably appears in Steve Harmison's nightmares, Ian Bradshaw, who was player of the match when the West Indies beat England here at the Oval back in 2004 in the final of the Champions Trophy. We're going to be looking forward to the T20 World Cup, which is going to have the final hosted in Barbados, talking about West Indies, talking about England, and probably having a few memories scattered along the next half an hour or so as well. So let's get on with it, Harmy. It's me, it's Harmy, it's following on, and this is a Barbados cricket special. So here we are, guys, at a venue where I've watched a lot of cricket, and you three have played for your teams here on numerous times, and with great success as well. Harmy's won an Ashes here. I'm not sure he's quite ready to look back at 2004 yet, Ian, but he's lost the Champions Trophy here as well, final. I can't remember who the player of the match was that day, but he scored some runs and took some wickets. That's right, it's the man next to you. And then, of course, Joel. Well, let's start with you. 1984, your second tour of England. You can't get much more successful than 5-0, can you? I mean, the first time England had ever been whitewashed, or, as the fans here at the Oval in South London declared on that famous day, moments after you took that final wicket, the locals were in, they were proud, they were loud, and they certainly enjoyed their cricket that day. But give us an idea of the memories, even though it was quite some time ago now, but looking back, that must have been up there with some of your very best days.
I can remember going to Richard Ellison, and I said to him, I need one of those wickets when I get you out. And he said to me, how me when you get me out? Or still got a lot of cricket to go. I see you expect the bat to hold it. Just like that, I say, you expect the bat to hold it? Okay. That is all I said to him. If you expect the bat to hold it, and it was over the next over, I roughed him up with 3 or 4 short ones, and then knocked the stumps down, and I said, thank you very much. But, it was always a lot of fun to come here and play cricket at the Oval. You call it the black wash, the black corn as well. The fans, the people around, I think that what happened is that we enjoyed the cricket so much that you didn't really worry about what was happening outside the boundary. But the noise that came from in the corner when we were playing was also inspiring to us to a certain extent. I used to feel on the boundary for a little while until I started feeling the gully and close to the wicket. And the only time that you really hear somebody is when you look at them. If you're concentrating, or when you were concentrating, unless they looked at you, I didn't hear anything that you were saying. It was just another noise. And they had a lot of people who used to say some funny things to you, not for the television though. Not for the television. So you would imagine what it's like, and you just sort of enjoyed it, the banter, and you just turn and you concentrate on the next ball. But then when I started feeling closer to the wicket is when, all of the fun in the games went away, unless you chase the ball from the gully down to the boundary, or chase the ball down. But the fans are what made the cricket interesting. Some very interesting comments and some interesting banter.
Oh, I bet. I mean, I grew up and we used to play cricket in the playground, and I'd always be coming up against a young Michael Holding or a young Malcolm Marshall or a young Joel Garner. I mean, they were rich days, weren't they? And you know, I'm not sure if you're aware, but of course you know the Barmy Army, and they travel all around the world. The co-founder of the Barmy Army was here, the late 70s, early 80s, and he took from standing at this ground, that was his inspiration for creating the Barmy Army, because he sat there and watched the fans cheering the West Indies on and thought, you know, England could do with something like that. And lo and behold, a few years on, you know, Barbados didn't just create, you know, brilliant cricketers, they created the Barmy Army as well.
But it is good fun. If you have followers or supporters following you all around the world, it is good. Even when we go to Australia, which is very far away, you will still get a really good gathering, a good following of people, you know, who supported us. You will get maybe 50 or 60 people making the trip, which was also interesting. But the fans, the cricket is for the fans, and the fans are the ones who make the cricket.
Fast forward 20 years, Ian, and on a day very similar to this actually, gloomy, bit dark, cold, you strode to the wicket, West Indies 8 down, miles away from getting to the total that you needed, 218, I think.
All right.
The game was won. No team on home soil would ever lose that match from there. I'll let Harmy take over from here.
Yeah, it was a weird and wonderful day. You know, thinking once we got Brian. I think Brian chipped. I think he pulled the ball off. I think Alex Wolf to mid wicket. Freddie took a good catch, and it was like that was it. We were like, it's over. England have finally won a trophy. And then at 100, you keep getting asks of, like, when you do school visits, or kids will say, you know, what's one of the fastest ball you bowled, or one of the fastest ball you bowled. I remember bowling a Yorker to this fine gentleman. It hit the white line. We managed to get the bat down. It flew down a fine leg, and it went for 4. And he looked up at the screen that said something like 96 point something mile an hour. And I mean, it was pitch black, wasn't it? It was dark. And that was my moment. When people say, oh, what was the moment you realised that game had gone? I meant the minute that went flying through there, that was all over for me. But I think the question for Ian is, when did you believe that you had won it? Because when you walked out, I think it was 120 for 8, chasing 210, was it? 218? There was still a lot of, you and Courtney Brown had to put a lot on to get over the finish line.
Yeah, it was a long journey. You know, you look at it, you don't study the score at the end because it seems so far away. So we just batted partnerships, you know, pick it down by overs, and we know that Harmy had to come back. Freddie, he had a spell in him too. So you had to get past the big moments. So we didn't try to look at the end goal. We knew what was there, but we had some hurdles to make before then. So we just picked it off like that. It was cold. I remember the morning that we came here, it was cold. It was probably one of the shortest warm-ups for both teams. You know, we just got in out quite quick. So when we thought of another morning coming back here, because you said it was getting dark too, there was no way we were coming back here for another cold warm-up. No way. So just trying to pick it off. And after we saw it off, Harmy spell, and I remember batting with Courtney, and you just don't look at the scoreboard. You don't want to see how fast that ball was. You know, you don't want to see how fast that ball was. So we had to get past those, and when we get past those, then you start to believe a little bit, and then you just take it from there. And the crowd, I mean, there was a great crowd in.
Down here, wasn't it? It was down here.
Yeah, down
here. It was brilliant.
And the atmosphere, because it was getting dark and the lights was coming on, so it was just a surreal sort of feeling at the time, and a magical moment.
For anybody watching, go back on, you're watching on YouTube, go back and look at the celebration. Look at the celebration from the presentation of that trophy. That presentation was literally 35 minutes after the game. And I mean, it was pitch black. I mean, it was in darkness. It was in proper darkness. You know, and that for me tells you how dark it was during the game, right at the very end. And, you know, the presentation, you know, the floodlights, you know, we didn't have floodlights, so they were brought some artificial light in just so they could basically take some photographs. That ICC brought artificial lights in to take photographs because it literally was pitch black. But you're right. We were of the opinion, I think both teams were of the opinion, get it finished tonight, because we were thinking, right, 1 wicket, game over, because no chance number 11 coming in and facing us on that. But I'm sure on the West Indies side, on your side, we're thinking this is actually, while we're in the zone, we've got this partnership going. Yeah. Was there ever a thought going to the umpire and say, can we come back tomorrow morning?
No, not at all, because we knew that the English at the time, they sensed victory when we walked out. There's no doubt about that. And if you're in a battle, you got to seize the moment. You just know when is the moment. And we just felt that we get us some momentum. You don't want to give a champion team a chance to go back and strategize and come back out here. So let's do it now.
What rubs salt into the wound was that Courtney Brown was born round here. He was born in Lambeth, and then he went over to Barbados. And we've been to Barbados, we've covered cricket in Barbados, and amazing. We couldn't quite do the Kensington Oval, so we're here at the Kensington Oval. But one of the things that always strikes me about Barbados is, how is it that a country that is shy of 300,000 people, is around that, has produced so many, not just international cricketers, but world-class cricketers. Per capita, I would say that Barbados is probably the most successful cricket-producing country in the world. You could probably spend 5 minutes reeling off the names. So what is it about Barbados that just lends itself to creating these cricketing greats?
Well, for me, as you started with inspiration, it's a legacy of inspiration. Starting from before Joel's time, he would have had Suez, Sir Charles, we had the 3Ws, obviously Sir Gary. So when you have that legacy of excellence, it gives something for the next generation to aspire to. And I think that's what we've done over the years. Cricket is in our blood. I mean, it's cricket, rum. Those are the things that world class, world class in Barbados. So we take great pride in our legacy. We would hope that we would be able to produce more greats, the Sagaris and so forth. Hope that we can continue to put their legacy and their image out there to inspire young people. And I think because of how cricket is going right now, there's so much opportunity now in cricket. It's a real livelihood that a person can really invest their energy into. So we're excited by it.
And the landscape's changing now.
I was lucky when I started playing cricket at school. I had some money martingale for maybe a few months, and then several weeks took over, and then Seymour Nurse took over. So we always had former cricketers come into the schools and coaching, and then I spent maybe 6 months with Sir Charles Griffith in the BCL before he went back to the school team and played, and then I played with Suez for about 3 seasons or so before he went further on in the cricket. But excuse me, it is good that you can have those people around you and have them as coaches. And like Ian said, when West Indies did well, the next morning you had 100 West Halls and West Hall did well. If Seymour Nurse did well, you had 100 Seymour Nurse who were there playing, and it is always good that we've always had cricketing greats who played for the West Indies and that we were close to.
I'm saying the landscape seems to be changing. It's changed in the Caribbean islands. It's more white ball dominated. It's gone away from the traditional Test cricket. But now the West Indies with the world.
They forgot to tell West Indies that in 2019 when we were in Bridgetown.
Yes, well, yeah, a little bit.
Was it they batted all day, Jason Holder? And
yeah, that spoiled.
Roston Chase,
actually,
8 wickets.
That spoiled one of my other loves of Barbados, the golf courses, because Apes Hill, Westmoreland, Sandy Lane, yeah, you name it, they've got the best golf courses in the world there. But when you look at how you're going back for the World T20 in a few weeks' time, few months' time, the West Indies now probably have the best chance in quite a while to win a major trophy because of the way the landscape has gone from red ball cricket and the dynamics of the white ball game in the West Indies. How do you assess what is going to be, a good tournament in America and in the Caribbean, and also, obviously the finals at, the Kensington Oval. It's in Barbados. Do you think we'll see an England-West Indies final like we did in England won there in 2010? So, are we hoping? Is this is the West Indies feel, the islands feel as though they've got great hope for a chance of success in this tournament?
I think we have a great team for this type of cricket, as you said, because of the experience that we built up over the years. Guys playing in the leagues around the world and so forth, and we seem to be coming together at the right time. So, but the thing about T20 cricket, it's so unpredictable. You got to win it on the day. So, as good as the team that you may have, England, they got a great team. Australia, the champions too as well. India, powerhouse always. So, it's a really exciting tournament, given the talent that you have around the world. So many guys playing in the leagues. I think you can feel the momentum building right now in Caribbean, certainly in Barbados, hosting the finals and so forth. Having done it in 2010, great atmosphere. And
27, 2010, and now the third major final for us. This is our third. But we've been working to make sure that it is maybe the greatest tournament ever. But we're looking beyond. We had a conference over the last week or so in dealing with West Indies cricket, and we are looking back at trying to become the export capital for cricketers again. So there are a lot of things that were discussed, and quite a few things need to be done. But if our major hurdle is funding. We've only got 7 million people, say, over a space of 1,500 miles in terms of from Jamaica right away down to Guyana. And what if we were able to run a professional cricket setup within the region, it would mean that we can keep a lot more of our players together for a little bit longer and play a lot more games, and then start looking at exporting the fellas again, exporting cricket. But that is something that we have spoken about in the last 6 to 8 weeks in a serious way. Part of the legacy of the World Cup is that we hope that at the end of the World Cup, it just doesn't die like that, but we go into the schools, primary schools and secondary schools, and try to sell the cricket. I think that what has happened is that over the last 30 years, cricket had a bad run in which it was beaten over the head to the point where everybody gave it a bad name. It's still the sport of choice, and we still have a lot of youngsters playing the game. So the whole idea is to try to see how we can galvanize enough money to run a professional league within the region to start rebuilding. Everybody's saying that they want a strong West Indies team, but if you look at the profit share of the money from all of the major tournaments, maybe 4 teams get the majority, 60-70%, and all the other teams scramble for the other 30%. And I don't think that that's an ideal way if you want strong teams around. I think that there have to be some sort of parity in terms of what can happen. And I think that if you're talking about if you want strong cricket around the world and you're talking about developing the cricket, I think that is an area that you have to look at where you can sort of share the money equitably, so that we can be able to spend the money we spend a fair amount of money from locally, but at the same time, we can only go so far. What it would take for us to get to the top would be a professional league.
Do you think that the richer nations should do more to support Test cricket in those countries who do struggle financially? Or
I think so. If you look at it, while we were playing, we went to Australia for 11 consecutive years to help them to build their stocks. If you go back and you come back to county cricket, when we played again, most of our players played county cricket because they wanted to make the game interesting and wanted to bring people through the gates. Okay, it is not an ideal world, but at the same time, and I say that if we helped you when you were struggling, why can't you do the same for us now and get us nearly back to where we were, if not back to where we were? And I think that there has to be there's got to be a different conversation going on in how the cricket is being managed at the top. It can't be just the rich nations take all, and if you go back to it, when we toured England, after one test match, our entire tour fee was paid after one test match. It taking you back to the 80s. And so I think we made some mistakes, yes, in the way how we negotiated tour fees and that sort of thing. And I think that, that ship has already sailed, but we have to look to find a way to make it much more equitable.
And I think with the World T20 final being in Barbados, is this the ideal way of showcasing what this part of the world needs more love and attention? We're going to see, two of the best teams of sort of power cricket, because when you're watching the IPL at this moment in time, seeing 250, 260, I mean, it's no place for a bowler like myself and you, Ian, but I tell you what, this World T20 is going to be, I think, an unbelievable tournament. And with the final being in Barbados, surely the ICC have got to, people around the world have got to look at it and think, these guys put on a great show. Why are we not going there more often? Because at this moment in time, there's not many test matches played in the Caribbean. Is that more towards the West Indies, or is that the ICC not, like you say, given the fairer share of the pie?
Well, I think we're looking for a long-term conversation. Yes, we understand the tournament that we're going to put on, a global event. We'll aim to be excellent, but we want to just say, well, look, let's embrace this tournament, but understand we can deliver more. Look at our history, look at what we've done as a cricketing nation, and let's have a stronger conversation of how we can sustain that excellence, that development that Joel is talking about. Look at our infrastructure and so forth. Let's ensure that we can develop our players similar to how it's being done in some of the richer nations. And I don't think this is just a conversation just the West Indies will be having. I mean, there are other cricketing nations as well who also are in a similar boat, and we want to make sure that it is equity and the game has its strength through strong competition. Sport is driven by strong competition, and you want to have as many strong teams as possible so that it gives value to the spectators. The spectators don't want to come and see a one-sided game, no matter what type of game it is. And I think we are at a point right now where we're saying, look, we understand what we need to do, but we just need the support.
One of the ways of putting a strong team on the field is being able to select all of your players, and that's been a problem for West Indies and other cricketing nations over the years. How much of a disappointment is it that when it comes to the biggest show in cricket taking place in the Caribbean, and a player like Sunil Narayan won't be playing for West Indies? And of course it's been a problem over the last few years as well. Is there anything more that West Indies cricket can do to make sure that situation doesn't occur moving forward?
Well, Joe spoke to the fact that what we're hoping to have in terms of having a system where our guys can come and play more often. That will require some finances, I'm sure. We can continue to provide this sort of world-class talent, but appreciate the fact that just like anybody else, just any country, it requires some finances and some support, some structure. And once we have that partnership with the governing body and those people like that, we have no doubt that you will have more people coming out to the West Indies, because our product will remain strong. And good cricket in the best place to watch it, you can't beat that, huh?
No, you can't beat that. And you've got some, but it is, with every Sunil Narayans that has been sort of fallen by the wayside, and whether it's been mismanagement or even the individual doesn't want to play, you look at the IPL and you see so many West Indian players who are not just bit parts of their team, they're proper players in their team. How, as much as it's probably frustrating not seeing them all playing for the West Indies, but it does tell you that the area, that if it does get some fine-tuning, a bit of funding, like Joel saying, some proper management, the West Indies' actual product of cricket is not far away from being at the top in world cricket.
Yeah, we have the talent. We have the talent. There's no doubt about it. And Joel, he's been around in administration, coaching, you name it. And he's always speaking of new talent is coming through, you know. But as you said, we just want to ensure that there's a continuation of that, and there's a way that we can continue to have the facilities in place so that guys can be world class. You know, we are very proud of our cricketing system, school structure and so forth. Guys still playing cricket, but we just think that this could be the catalyst. You know, success here, and then from there, strong conversations internally, and with the global partners as well.
You know, it is interesting that when we look at the cricket and you look back at under 19 cricket in world under 19 cricket, we are as competitive as the rest of the world at under 19 level. And what happens is that we tend to lose a lot of the players in between 19. Like previously, we used to have 18 tours. When they say 18 tours, which is 3 and 4 day cricket, to help boost them. But as a result of not being able to play all of the test matches that we were playing, that we could play, we filled it in with 18 tours in which we took the youngsters away, gave them a taste of what cricket at the senior level was worth and what it is. And I think that, you know, if we want to get back to the top, we have to find a way to also get our younger players who are thereabout to understand the importance of playing the cricket, give them a taste of what cricket at the higher level is all about, and try to build from there.
And we're also keen to not just making sure that we not just focus on the T20 cricket. You know, I mean, that's what's coming, what's in front of us. But we want to ensure that guys have an appreciation and that love for the longer versions too as well, because that for any cricketer, that is where you want to be remembered most. You know, you appreciate the different formats of the game. We haven't heard a cricketer yet who hasn't been very proud of whatever they've done in the longer version. So we want to ensure that we have players aspiring and as keen to play in the longer versions too as well.
So looking ahead to our dream final, and it's England against West Indies in Bridgetown. And, you know, there's been many games for the West Indies where 6 or 7 of the players have come from Barbados. It's quite regular, it's quite normal. But of course there's 3 players who might be playing for England, who 2 of them were born in Barbados and one of them lived there for a bit. You know, Phil Salt played with Jofra Archer, and of course we know Chris Jordan, who captains Surrey here at the Oval for the T20s. Is that, if that is how it turns out and all 3 of those play for England, and is that, will we watch on it with a sense of pride, or will it be a little bit bittersweet at the same time?
Seeing all 3 of them and the West Indies England final would be great. And they will be welcomed the same way as though they were playing for the West Indies, which is a good thing because we appreciate good cricket. We appreciate the people that we play against. And I don't know if you can call it bittersweet. It would be good to see what the reaction would be like in relation to how the players deal with it. I don't think, you don't have to worry about the crowds. Because the Barbadian crowds or the crowds around cricket are knowledgeable and they appreciate good players. At the end of the day, it would be just as good as if they were all born in England or all born in the West Indies, as long as we get good cricket and we would appreciate the cricket coming from them. I think that's about the fairest way to say it is, because that is what we are. We appreciate good cricketers. Don't mind, we keep losing them to, keep losing a lot of our youngsters to England. We had this conversation coming down the road in the car. We have an agreement with St. Bees and we used to have an agreement with Dulwich College. So it is where we send one player for 2 years to sort of get a different feel of different conditions playing in England and playing at home. So there's a relationship with England and Barbados. So we don't feel too badly about it.
Two amazing careers. When you look back, talking about Barbados, is there one player from each of you that you wish had played for Barbados, that you played with in your illustrious careers, when you go around and think, I wish he'd have played for Barbados, that played for the West Indies?
Send me back a long way, boy. No. Like, I'll say this
You
to
played
you.
with Vivid. You played with Vivid Somerset.
Yeah.
So, but would it, think of somebody that has played against you for Barbados or up against Barbados, and you think, wow, he's been a thorn in our side, but obviously a world-class player as well.
You. There are a lot of players that we played against that were thorns in our sides, but I always said if I was going to cricket war and I wanted a batsman, I would take Viv. And if I wanted a bowler, I would take Marker. So I would say that Viv played for the Leewards, and maybe if you look anywhere else for another bowler, maybe you look for Roberts. Those are two people, and I don't think that anybody will be able to beat us.
What was so special about them?
With Viv, his attitude. To describe him, he's a different kind of person. He would watch the cricket for a few hours, lie down, relax, and just get up ready for battle. And it was a never say die kind of attitude, I batted with him in the final at Lord's, and all he said to me is, all I want you to do is just hold on. When they call you, run. Same thing at Old Trafford in the 83 World Cup. He said to me, when he scored 189, remember he batted and he made the runs, batted with number 9, 10, 11. He said, all I want you to do is just, when they call you, run. That's all you got to do. You leave the rest to me. And don't care who was bowling, it didn't make any difference. He never flinched, never worried about who was bowling. If he did, he didn't show it. And same thing with Andy. You don't care who was at the other end. You always got that feeling that you can always get the person out, or you can always take on the other person. Those two players were like that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'll go back a little before my time. I said, as a Barbadian, no one seems to be idolized more than Lawrence Rowe. The amount of boys that have been named Lawrence in Barbados is unbelievable.
Actually,
because
I saw him last weekend.
yeah, that guy was idolized and continues to be. When cricket and the batsmanship is being spoken of in Barbados, his name is one of the first names that always comes up. So if you ask a Barbadian who they would pay money to come and watch bat, a lot of them would say Lawrence Rowe. So he'd be high there. But in terms of those who I played with, it was an honor to play with Brian Charles. Simply a genius. And to play against him on a few occasions, I always laughed at it, tell him that I got in the West Indies team when they got you out. Because that's when people take it serious, Then you get the big guys out. So definitely Brian would be very, very high up there. But there's so many talented people that you might play against, and some that have never reached the international level, guys who might just not have been as fortunate. And that's what I guess all of us who play international, we understand what a privilege it has been to play at that level and to represent your country, because a lot has to go right. It's a lot of hard work, but still you got to be very, very fortunate, and it makes it even more pleasurable having gone through the journey.
You mentioned Andy's the ground. Is he the groundsman at Andy Roberts?
You mean Antigua?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's groundsman at Antigua.
Yeah.
And I remember in the 2004 series, I'd never met him before, and Sir Ian Botham's working on Sky. Harmy come and meet Sir Andy Roberts. He's the groundsman here, and I was like, "Whoa, happy days, fast bowler. I've got a chance." And he just looked at me and he went, "You'll not." He actually, people didn't introduce him as the groundsman. He just said, "You'll not win 4-0." We had just won Barbados. We won the series 3-0. It was like, and I looked at him and I was like, "What on earth? What on earth in your batting top six means that we're not going to win 4-0 because of the way we've bowled and the way you've batted?" And he looked at me and he went, "I'm groundsman here and I prepared this pitch." I was like, oh. And at the end, I remember saying to me, and you were a fast bowler. I mean, Brian got 400. Yeah, West Indies got 750. It was the flattest wicket that I've seen in the West Indies for a long time. But I can imagine Brian being a very, very good friend of Andy Roberts, because that's twice he's broke the record on that ground. So I just couldn't get my head around the fact that this great fast bowler could produce a pitch that didn't bounce. I really couldn't. And I know you, Joel, you get bounced on anything, so could I, but it was like, really? You produced this? I mean, it was an amazing series in 2004. Well, I don't think the West Indies realised how good attack England were coming with. But for me, that one Test match, the fourth Test match, the carnival of the fourth Test match of Brian getting 400, will always stick in my memory of the West Indies. We win in a 3-0 in Barbados, go to 4-0, trying to go 4-0, but the fighting spirit of the Caribbean, but also the locals. When we first got to Antigua, it was as you would have thought the West Indies had got off the bus when England did, because of the special affiliation that people have in the West Indies about cricket.
Last question before we wrap up. But one of the 3 games that's going to be taking place in Bridgetown is England against Australia. So there'll be a lot of neutral fans
I don't know.
the grounds. And so the question is, who will they be supporting?
That's a good question. You say neutral fans. I don't think there's going to be a lot of neutral fans in the ground, because the old enemy will be playing each other, England and Australia, and the crowd are going to love it. I think that game is already sold out. If it is one game that has already been sold out, it is the England-Australia game. So it'll be interesting. You will have 50-50 supporters in terms of people barking for England, but you're going to have your fans there anyhow. And the other set, when they're going to be shouting for Australia. But it is going to be a good game. Trust me. It is usually a grudge game when you play Australia. So
Always. That was the final, of course, in 2010.
Yeah, Paul Collingwood's team, 2010. It was a bit of a mismatch final, wasn't it? Didn't live up to the expectation as though the rest of the tournament had been. But one thing I'll say of this tournament, after watching the way the shortest format of games going, whether it's 100 here, Big Bash, IPL, teams are getting 260, 270 in 20 overs. Could we see the first 300 match in the Caribbean? I mean, the first week of the tournament, there's obviously some easier games for the bigger nations. But as bowlers, we sit here now. Could we see 320 overs?
I don't know if you call them easier games. You know, it is who play the best cricket on the day. Different to a Test match where you got 5 days and you might lose a day where, you know, the other team gets the better of you. You can claw back. In this T20 cricket, if you look at the game where Marsh made 180 somebody to win the game for Australia, that was a game that looked lost, and I took a drop catch for them, and that was one of the lower ranked teams. So you know you're always going to get surprises, and you can't underestimate any team that is playing, because everybody trying to win. It is going to be interesting that one of those teams which we're not paying attention to is going to be a shock.
Joel, Ian, thanks for joining us and following on. Let's hope for a repeat of the 2016 T20 World Cup final, but without
an England win.
Without
Stokes is not there, so we might not we'll not have the excitement at the end, but fingers crossed this time for an England win. Sorry, boys.
So that was following on in association with Barbados Tourism. Don't forget, Barbados will be the host of 3 of the group games in the upcoming T20 World Cup, as well as hosting some of the knockout stages and the final, of course. Big thanks to Joel Garner and Ian Bradshaw, and of course Steve Harmison. And you have been watching, listening to Following On Barbados Special.